Alright, for part 3, the final part, last and final part, I would like you to take notes so I can check these and grade them. So do take notes on these, write them down, because they will be due. Alright, we left off at mammary glands. Again, mammary glands produce milk. They're in mammals. And they are modified sweat glands. They modify to produce more protein. And hence, cow's milk is made for cows. Human's milk, slightly different protein mix. That's why we do not feed human babies cow's milk right off the bat, because they can't digest it. It gives them the runs. They are organs of milk production, and they're usually, well, they are developed in the chest, and they're surrounded by lobes of fat. Hence the reason why women have larger chests than men, unless the guy lifts a lot of weights. And that's not fat, that's muscle. Alright, nails. Nails are basically just a layer of dead stratum corneum with very hard keratin protein. Just thick layers. You got your nail body, the main part you see out there. The free edge extends above and beyond the nail right there. And then the root of the nail is the part of the nail covered by the skin down here, so it's underneath there. The eponychium, it's pronounced eponychium, epo, upon, niki, the nail. It's the part extending over the nail. And there's your true cuticle, and there's the eponychium, that little dark spot right there. The two kind of fade together, so for our purposes we'll just call that the eponychium. This little white part here is the visible portion of the nail matrix, which is the part which produces the nail itself. This white part we can see right there we call the lunula, because luna means moon, so it looks like a little half moon. So you can say my eponychium is growing over my lunula. You gotta say it crazy like that to remember it. Or you can just be smart and remember it anyway. Alright, the nail bed is the site of nail attachment inferior to the nail itself. Just under the, on the bottom there. So when you rip a nail off, you ripped it off the nail bed. That would hurt. Again, the nail matrix down below is a thicker, more proximal portion of the bed, which is the site of nail production. So that puts on the nail. It's constantly reproducing. And then this picture I put up here just to help you basically look again and see what the eponychium, the cuticle, the lunula were, and everything else like that for the quiz. Not as much detail as, or there's more detail than you'll probably need. The hyponychium, I don't discuss that. Alright, burns. A first-degree burn is literally burning down to the epidermis, just that first layer. It will heal completely due to the regeneration of the stratum basale in your epithelial tissue. So, you burn it, it's okay, it won't scar, it'll come back. You can get a sunburn, as in the picture below, the lady who overdid it, or up in the top right hand, the guy who got his hand dropped in some hot scalding water maybe, or hit a burner. Just burn the epithelial tissue off. It will heal completely. Second degree burn is now a little bit deeper, goes down to the dermis, to the second layer, into the dermis. You can see the epithelial tissue in that person's hand totally peeling off up there, and you can see the dermis below that. Will that leave a scar? No, because remember, the hair follicle is an extension of the stratum basale deep into the dermis. So the hair follicle is still there. The stratum basale will regenerate and will replenish that epidermis on top, so there will be no scarring. And these can occur again to a super deep sunburn, someone who falls asleep out in the sun or just is stupid about it. If they get burned by flames, hot liquids, hot oils, gasoline, any chemicals that would be very caustic. Again, it burns down to the dermis. A third degree burn. Third degree burn burns to the hypodermis, as in this picture here. I had to switch pictures up. My old picture had a major third degree burn which went all the way to the bone, and people thought that's what it was. But it really just goes to the third layer of the integumentary system, to the skin. So there is nerve damage. So a person with a third degree burn, you can touch their burned area and they don't really feel it because the nerves are damaged. The hair loss is permanent. That hair follicle is gone. It's trashed out. Remember, this is below the dermis. So because the hair follicle is gone, you have no epithelial tissue there. So when it heals back, it is all one big scar. There's no epithelial tissue. So yes, it will be permanent scarring. So you might have seen someone with a deep burn and they have a big scar there. Cyanosis, redness, and paleness. Remember what the causes of those are. Remember, cyanosis is due to low blood oxygen, causing your blood to be more purple in color. Again, going through the collagen, it looks bluish under the fingernails. Redness, yes, getting angry, getting very hot, allowing the superficial smooth muscles around the superficial capillaries to relax, so more blood rushes to the surface to get rid of that excess heat. And then paleness is due to low blood pressure, basically. If your blood pressure gets low, or the blood all of a sudden drops, goes deep, and it's not so superficial, you do look pale. You don't have the blueness, because, as you do in cyanosis, because you don't have the blood up at that surface. Alright, first and second degree burns and third degree burns, know those, remember those. Skin cancer, I haven't talked about those yet. Basal cell carcinoma begins in the stratum basale, just like the name implies, basal cell, your stratum basale, the base layer. And that can be dangerous if it goes undetected, or it goes for a long time. You let it go too long, then it'll start metastasizing or to spread. But it is the most common form of skin cancer and the least dangerous form of skin cancer. The squamous cell carcinoma, again, as the name implies, it's a stratified squamous epithelial tissue, and it's not as dangerous as the melanoma. However, it does spread faster than the basal cell carcinoma, so it tends to be a little more dangerous. But again, if you catch it in time, it should present little danger. But it can also metastasize if it's allowed to get big enough. Malignant melanoma is the worst of them all because it occurs in the melanocytes, which produce the melanin pigment, and they put off the melanosomes. Those melanosomes are packets of pigment, and because it pinches off and spreads throughout your epidermis to give you the color, it is also very readily spread, so it won't metastasize very easily. So malignant melanomas, that's why they're so dangerous. And these usually occur if you see an irregularly shaped mole or a very dark mole, a change in shape, change in color. That's a good indication of malignant melanoma. All three of these skin cancers are brought upon by excess exposure to sun and UV rays. Tanning beds. That's why we're seeing a rise in skin cancers in youth, because they have more access to tanning beds. Alright, metastasis, remember, is to spread. For the cancer to spread. UVA and UVB. Remember the difference between these two. Ultraviolet A, a broad band of light, but it's broad enough to really just damage the collagen fibers in your skin, which you lose the elasticity, so you get the wrinkles and the leathery look. UVB, another broad band of ultraviolet rays, but this is shorter rays, so that they tend to damage the DNA, and these can lead to your skin cancers. Alright, there are different nerve types in the skin. There's a lot of different nerve types. We're going to focus on about 5 or 6 of them. First one we're going to talk about is hot. You've got nerves which detect anything between 99 degrees basically Fahrenheit on up to 117 degrees Fahrenheit. So in that range, we detect it as heat. Anything above 117 degrees Fahrenheit now all of a sudden becomes pain. We also have ones dedicated for cold. Anything below 98 degrees Fahrenheit we feel is cool. So when you sweat, and even if it's only in the lower 90s, it's cooler than your body temperature as that sweat evaporates and you feel that cooling process. Down to 47 degrees Fahrenheit. I know it's still quite away from freezing, but if the skin should reach 47 degrees Fahrenheit, we feel that is ultra cold. Below 47, again, it hits as pain now. So when you put your tongue on that ice cold frozen flagpole and it sticks, it's painful. And then pain. Your pain receptors, there are special receptors throughout the body when they're exposed to burning or air due to cutting, they send a rapid action potential, just a real quick action potential. which gives us the pain sensation, not the deep, slow pain, but a really sharp, brisk pain. And then we have light to deep touch receptors. Our super light touch we call Merkels, named after a guy who found them, and they're very superficial, little round corpuscles of nerves, and they detect a very light touch, so a feather brushing lightly over your skin. You can feel that light. That's your Merkels disc picking that up. We also have similar nerves on the hair follicles, so when the hair follicle moves, you detect that light touch as well. Going deeper, we have, as you can see in the bottom of this diagram, a Pacinian corpuscle. It's green in this diagram above. Pacinian also begins with PACI, like Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is deep. So a deep press, if someone should put their hand on you and kind of press down, your Pacinian corpuscles detect a deeper pressure. And then, not listed here, but another one of importance is called the Ruffini's nerves. Okay, those Ruffini's are named after an Italian physician, Ruffini. However, I like to think of it this way: it's rough to sit on your butt all day long. As you're sitting for a long time, think about it right now. If you're sitting down, do you know you're sitting down? Close your eyes. You still feel a pressure, a deep pressure, constant pressure. So Ruffini's detect a constant pressure on your body, let you know, yes, you're still sitting down. So all these nerves work together to let you know that you've got a constant pressure, you got a deep pressure, you got a light pressure, you got a hair follicle movement in the wind, you got pain, you got cold, you got hot. Why isn't wet up here? Well, wet is really a combination of cold and some light touch receptors combined. Because as it gets cold, as things evaporate, it feels cool to us. So if you feel something like a cool bag of jelly get on you, if they put a Jello gelatin or something in a bag and it lightly touches you and rolls over your skin, it might feel like you're getting wet. The combination of the cool and the light receptors. We do not experience wet. Alright, some skin problems. Clinical focus in your textbook. Some of the brown boxes will have a lot of these as well, so know these. I did assign 6 diseases for your skin grid for homework, and that's to help you understand and enrich your study of the integumentary system, make it a little bit more relevant for you. Decubitus ulcer is a pretty important one. I've bolded it, put it in red, and underlined it, which means, yeah, it's probably good to know. They also call that bed sores. Decubitus, like taking away, debriding, and then ulcer, just a round sore. This happens a lot for older people in nursing homes because as they sit there on the bed or lie in the bed with that constant pressure on their now thinner skin than normal people, it pinches off the capillaries, destroys that hypodermis, destroys clear down through the epidermis and the dermis, allowing bacteria to enter in. And those bacteria enter in, you got these ulcers. They look like that. They get infected and they're very nasty. Ugh. Chickenpox is caused by the herpes zoster virus. Again, herpes family are all viruses which sequester away in the nerves and they last forever. So the herpes virus sequesters away in your nerves. That means it basically never goes away. Once you have a herpes virus, you've always got it. It stays in the nerve endings until you get stressed out again, and it rears its ugly head again. So chickenpox, once you've had them, you've always got them. How do they come back? They come back in the form of shingles. It's also caused by the herpes zoster virus. So it's, again, sequestered or snuck away there, lived away. They don't really live, but they hide away in your nerve endings until you're stressed later on in life. Used to think it was an old person's disease until I realized a friend of mine who was 28 years old and had it. And then just this year, a student told me that she had the shingles. Pretty scary. And yes, it is caused by the same virus as the chickenpox. It is the chickenpox virus. Leaving these lesions which are very, very, very painful. So next question. What does jock itch, ringworm, and athlete's foot all have in common?